Good evening and welcome to TVB News. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened further strikes on Iran's Karg Island oil export hub and urged allies to deploy warships to secure the Strait of Hormuz. With the U.S.-Israel war in Iran in its third week, Trump said U.S. strikes had totally demolished much of the island and warned of more to come. This as India said 2 of its ships carrying liquefied petroleum gas have crossed the strait. Tracy Furness has more.
Sirens sounding across Jerusalem, followed by a series of explosions. Explosions also across Tel Aviv. Several air alert sirens went off throughout Saturday in central Israel as multiple launches from Iran were identified. Loud explosions heard from impacts and interceptions in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Trump has called for countries, including the UK, to send warships to help protect the Strait of Hormuz. The Defense Ministry said Saturday, "We are currently discussing with our allies and partners a range of options to ensure the security of shipping in the region." Tracy Furness, TVB News.
As the Israeli military ramped up attacks on Lebanon, countries in the Middle East on Sunday reported new missile and drone strikes from Iran. Tehran has urged the evacuation of 3 main ports in the United Arab Emirates, threatening for the first time to hit infrastructure of a neighboring country. The Turkish foreign minister noted there is no serious initiative to resume U.S.-Iran negotiations, but said he believes Iran is open to back-channel talks. Danny Zhou reports.
In the southern suburb of Beirut, Lebanon, excavators were clearing rubble in the wake of Israel's intensified strikes that rocked dozens of buildings earlier on Sunday. Over 800,000 people have been displaced by the war in 10 days as Hezbollah moved toward ground confrontation with Israeli forces. Video footage showed Israeli tanks rolling around the Lebanese side of the border on Saturday in a broad reinforcement of troops. This, as Israel's defense chief said, their military was instructed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to prepare to expand its activity in Lebanon. Iranian state media reported the Revolutionary Guards has vowed to hunt down Netanyahu in a latest statement. Tehran launched a new barrage of missiles towards Israel and kept up its attacks on Arab neighbors, including Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. Formula One announced its Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix will not take place in April. Turkey's top diplomat Hakan Fidan said in an interview that the conditions are not very conducive to diplomacy now, but added he believes the Iranians are open to back-channel talks with the US.
This time conditions are different because the countries that we are mostly cooperating in the region now under fire, under attack. So the way the war started and the way that it escalated is wrong and a colossal mistake on everybody's part.
Fidan said he tried to persuade Iran to halt attacks on Gulf states and that the priority of Turkey, a NATO member, is to stay out of the widening war.
We need to come up with an endgame plan. Our position is a defensive posture now. The NATO units are very much effective at this moment in intercepting missiles. So our primary objective is not to get into this war.
An Iranian lawmaker claimed on social media that Ukraine has become a legitimate target for Iran due to its involvement in the US-Israeli aggression. Ukraine's foreign ministry called the threat absurd in response. President Volodymyr Zelensky told reporters that Iran has used Russian Shahed drones to attack US bases and suggested over 10 countries have requested Kiev's assistance in intercepting Iranian drones. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Another 3 members of the Iranian women's football team who accepted refugee visas to stay in Australia have decided to return to their homeland. Their departure leaves 3 of the initial 7 squad members in Australia. The bulk of the team is now in Kuala Lumpur, where they are staying in a hotel. It is not clear whether the 3 returnees will join the main squad in Malaysia. Iran's Tasnim news agency said the 3 were returning to the warm embrace of their family and homeland. It has also described the women's return to the team as a disgraceful failure of the American-Australian project. Clouds of toxic smoke unleashed into the atmosphere by U.S.-Israeli airstrikes on Iranian oil facilities made a dangerous return to Earth in the form of black rain, prompting international health officials to warn of serious risks to the public. Residents of Tehran complained of burning eyes and difficulty breathing when the dark, oily precipitation fell near the Iranian capital last week. This after several fuel oil depots and a refinery were struck. Plumes of dark smoke have also been seen across other parts of the region over the 2 weeks of the war. Rain washes hazardous chemicals out of the atmosphere in a relatively short period of time, experts say, but people exposed to black rain should take precautions to avoid short and long-term health risks. A sandstorm has swept through Gaza, turning the sky orange and compounding the misery of displaced Palestinians in the enclave. Tracy Furness has more.
This was a scene in Gaza City Saturday, a sandstorm turning the sky orange, people still on the streets going about their business. But for those displaced by the ongoing conflict between Hamas and Israel and living in tents, the wind is making their living conditions even harder. Authorities urged the population to take measures to protect themselves. First responders operating under the Hamas-run Interior Ministry told Palestinians to stay home, especially those with respiratory illness, as the cloud of orange-tinted thick dust spread across the enclave. It also told people to secure their tents to prevent the tents from being blown away. Israel's war with Hamas has left most of Gaza's 2 million residents displaced, living in tents and damaged buildings with little protection from the elements. Ali Sharab, a displaced Palestinian from Rafah, said, "Even if the weather were better, tents are unsuitable. So what do you think if it's dusty, winter or hot? The situation becomes much more difficult than before." Sharab added, "The tents are made from fabric, not nylon. When it rains, the tent floods and we end up sitting in the street. In the sun, the tent suffocates you. Tents mean humiliation, degradation. Nothing expresses it. We are suffocating. We've been suffocated and humiliated and there's nothing left. The situation is extremely difficult." Video on Saturday showed tents flapping and trees swaying, dust-filled streets with little visibility. While dust storms occur in Gaza, there has not been one as intense as this for more than 5 years. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Top economic officials of China and the U.S. are assembling at a venue in Paris to launch a new round of talks aimed at ironing out their trade truce. Xinhua News Agency has called on Washington to approach the negotiations with a rational, pragmatic mindset while taking principled action to underpin stable bilateral ties. The Chinese delegation led by Vice Premier He Lifeng has arrived at the Paris headquarters of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development for discussions with the U.S. team. The two parties are expected to review progress in meeting their commitments under last October's Busan deal declared by the two heads of state. Reuters reported they will put much of the emphasis of the Paris talks on shifting U.S. tariffs, the flow of rare earth minerals and magnets, the U.S.'s high-tech export controls, as well as China's purchases of American agro-products. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jameson Greer are also bringing a new Section 301 probe into unfair trade practices over so-called overcapacity, alongside a similar investigation into alleged forced labor practices. Both targeted trading partners, including China. Beijing has decried the move and said it reserved the right to take countermeasures. Welcome back. The United States flag was raised again at the U.S. Embassy in Venezuelan capital on Saturday, 7 years after it was lowered when Washington and Caracas cut diplomatic relations in 2019. It comes after the United States and Venezuela agreed to restore diplomatic ties in a major shift after years of tensions, following the U.S. military operation in Venezuela that led to the capture of former President Nicolas Maduro. In a statement on social media, the U.S. Embassy team wrote this morning, March 14, 2026, "At the same time, my team and I raised the American flag exactly 7 years after it was taken down. The embassy compound is still undergoing renovations, and officials have not announced when it will be fully reopened." Drone attacks on Pakistan intercepted by the country's military has led to injuries to children and damages to houses. On Saturday, Pakistan's President Asif Ali Zardari said the drone attacks on civilian areas had crossed the red line. He accused neighboring Afghanistan for the attacks and said Kabul had brought grave consequences upon itself. Pakistan said drones launched on Friday were intercepted, but that falling debris injured 2 children in Quetta and 2 other people elsewhere in the country. The cross-border clashes between the 2 Asian countries have shown no signs of abating, despite efforts by China and Turkey to broker a ceasefire. Foreign Minister Wang Yi, Defense Minister Dong Jun, and Public Security Minister Wang Xiaohong are now in Vietnam for the China-Vietnam 3+3 strategic dialogue on diplomacy, defense, and public security. Wang Yi arrived at the central office of the Communist Party of Vietnam at around 5 p.m. local time. He was greeted by Vietnamese Foreign Minister Le Hoi Trung. Following the meeting, Wang will attend a dinner hosted by the Vietnamese side. A boy died after he was suspected of falling from height at Chun Wan's Hanli Villa. His parents were arrested on suspicion of negligence. Police officers subsequently arrived on site to investigate the accident and found that some of the window grills in the involved apartment were not installed. Authorities received reports at around 10:30 a.m. of a 2-year-old male toddler falling from height at the building. His family brought the boy to the nearby Adventist hospital on their own, where the toddler was later confirmed dead. Sources said the boy and his 7-year-old brother lived together with their parents, with preliminary investigations indicating that the younger brother fell from height while playing with his brother in the living room. Their mother was in the same room at the time of the incident, while the father was resting in another room. MTR's Chun Wan line has begun operation with a new signaling system. The corporation indicates that the transition was generally smooth, but there were a few minor teething issues. Samantha Lee tells us more.
At Chun Wan Station this morning, the new signaling system was put into service. Trains were seen aligning with the platform doors. Those passengers said it was basically the same as usual, adding that the railway operator should reduce technical glitches and enhance reliability in the future. Another commuter expressed confidence in the new system, saying that his ride was smooth. The new signaling system utilizes wireless technology that allows for a more flexible and safe spacing between trains. The system is already in use on Tuma and East Rail lines. Cheris Lee, Deputy Director of MTR's Operating and Metro segment, said they saw a few instances where the trains did not stop at the exact right spot, and the train captains had to move the train to align with the platform doors. However, he said these were isolated cases. She added that extra staff will be deployed to the station to handle any contingencies tomorrow, so she believes the impact on the Monday passengers should be minimal. Passengers are advised to stay tuned to the MTR mobile app for the latest service information. Meanwhile, the Island Line is expected to upgrade its system next year, followed by the Kwun Tong and Cheung Kwan O lines. The entire project is slated for completion within 2029. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Amid heightened tensions in the Middle East, Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Christopher Hui, stressed the conflict has brought about both challenges and opportunities, noting that Hong Kong is one of the safest asset management centers in the world. Continuous warfare has plagued the Middle East for over half a month already, with the conflicts having led to a global surge in oil prices. Speaking on the war's global impact, Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Christopher Hui, said authorities will ensure the stability of the financial market, adding that he noticed recent reports of individuals living in the Middle East who wish to relocate their assets. He said the city's safety and stability are being showcased on the international stage amid increasing world tensions, adding that the city's legal and banking sectors have been receiving increasing amounts of inquiries in recent times. Hui noted that the government lately increased preparations related to asset management work, emphasizing Hong Kong's status as a reliable hub. The Financial Services and Treasury Chief said authorities will assist more than 220 family offices expand their businesses in the city before the end of 2028, with the goal of transforming Hong Kong into the world's top asset management center. Meanwhile, Hui noted a relevant task force has begun their work to implement the National 15th Five-Year Plan in the city. The government is currently drafting a bill to reform the Medical Council. Secretary for Health Lo Chung-mao stated that caps will be set on the number of times that expert witnesses can submit reports and members can reschedule meetings. If these targets aren't met, replacement of personnel will be considered. Samantha Lee has more.
The plans for shake-up came after a complaint involving a child with cerebral palsy that dragged on 15 years. To expedite medical complaints, the government has proposed requiring the Medical Council to set certain procedural limits. Speaking on TVB News program, Secretary for Health Lo Chung-mao shared further details. Can we set a report submission deadline when expert witnesses agree, say for 1 month, 2 months, or even 3 months, rather than waiting indefinitely? Furthermore, a specific time frame should be set for panel members to schedule a hearing. These time frames will be decided by the Medical Council. Would there be any consequence for those who fail to meet the targets? Lo said that the authorities might consider replacing members who are deemed incompetent. However, he noted that there are existing civil service mechanisms to address serious negligence by administrative or legal personnel. When asked how much faster the overall complaint handling process can be expected, the health chief said it would be unreasonable for the Health Bureau to set rigid deadlines or targets. The government aims to present the bill to the Legislative Council in the first half of the year. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Hong Kong Breast Cancer Foundation has launched more than 600 free slots for lymphedema screening and nursing care for breast cancer patients. Lymphedema affects approximately 20% of patients post-treatment, with early symptoms often manifesting as swelling, limb heaviness, and a tightness in clothing. The organization will support some 600 patients, including 80 newly diagnosed patients, 403 low-income individuals aged 40 or above, and 160 suffering from lymphedema. Participants can receive complimentary screenings and care services at the Foundation's centers in Ngau Chi Wan and North Point. Security Chief Chris Tang said the police have a special rehab program in place for young suspects arrested but not charged over the 2019 protests. Tang said the program has been in operation for more than a year. He would not elaborate on the program's details, citing operational reasons, but he said officers would provide rehab opportunities to the youngsters, and he described these projects as positive activities. The 2-week-long Aplei Chao Shing Cultural Festival officially kicked off today. Scores of revelers could be seen enjoying the traditional parade earlier this afternoon. Devotees began their journey at 2 p.m., departing from Aplei Chao's Hongsheng Temple before making their way to other nearby shrines. Carrying figurines of folk deities, including Guan Yin and Tin Hao, seated on traditional sedan chairs, the extravagant parade attracted an increasing number of onlookers. Mr. Tian, a visitor from Shandong Province, said he participated in the traditional event twice in the past. He said there are far fewer religious activities like this in northern China, and that he really enjoys the atmosphere of the religious culture that's still very much alive in the southern part of the country. This Aplei Chao resident hopes the tradition will be carried on for generations to come, stressing that it's an integral part of the city's identity. Having reached the pier, members of the parade boarded a vessel that departed from Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter, taking the gala to sea. The figurines of the gods were then escorted to the Hongsheng Temple, where they were worshipped alongside the namesake deity of the shrine. Hongsheng, often called the god of the South Sea, was deified by local fishermen who view him as a bringer of peace to the household, good weather, and great catch of fish. The deity's birthday is celebrated on the 13th day of the second month every lunar year, with the Hongsheng Cultural Festival having been listed as an intangible cultural heritage in the city since 2014. This as locals of Aplei Chao have celebrated the festival for well over a century. Meanwhile, those who wish to participate in the events can expect dragon boat performances, parades, and water lantern events in the coming 2 weeks. And that's the news. Thanks for watching.